Hi there, Unlearner. Thank you so much for taking part and being present in this episode of the Unlearners podcast. Today, it's just me, and you and I are having a conversation about something that has been such a big deal in my unlearning journey, but also a skill that I've had to build as I've been thinking about how to step into the next version of myself, how to really become what I feel is next for me. And today's conversation is about courage. It's about having the courage to unlearn. Because let's face it, it takes a whole lot of courage to really step into the next version of yourself. So I want to start this episode off with a really interesting and somewhat funny story that happened back when I was still a primary school teacher. So we were having our school gala at the time, and all of the little children were in their swimming costumes and their caps. It was a super exciting day, and we all went down to the school pool to participate in the gala. All of the children were grouped into their houses. So we had 4 different houses as part of the school, and all of the children were sitting down getting ready for some swimming. And as we went down, I was one of the house mothers. So basically what this means is that I am the teacher that's responsible for keeping all of my children in a group and then ushering them to the swimming pool when it was time to swim. So here's what happened. All of my little babies were nice and ready. So this was grade 1. So these were really, really small children. And I got them nice and ready. And then one adorable little boy came up to me and he said, "Miss Njapa, I don't think I can swim today. I'm not okay. I'm really, really scared that something bad is going to happen to me while I'm in the water. Can I just sit down and not swim?" You can imagine. If you know me, you can imagine what happened. So I looked at this amazing little boy in his eyes and I said to him, "Okay, sweetheart, sit down. You don't have to swim with the other children." "Fine, sit down." So he sat back down. And then I ushered all of the other little children to the pool. And they stood in their line and they were all ready to swim against the other houses. Now, what happened next is what I'd love for you to take away from this story. The teacher who was in charge of lining all the children up at the pool and making sure that all of the little girls and boys were there came up to me and he said, "Miss Njapa, there's a little boy missing in your group. Where is he?" I leaned in a little bit closer to him and I said, "Well, he's a little bit nervous. He doesn't feel like swimming today because he's just not quite in it. And he's scared. He's scared that something's going to happen." And then this teacher bravely walked past me, with all due respect, he walked past me and he went to the little boy and crouched down to his level. And he said to him, "Okay, now I know that you're scared, but I want to promise you that nothing is going to happen. There are teachers all around this pool looking after you to make sure that if anything goes wrong, we are there to save you. Now I want you to jump into that pool and try your best." And you should have seen how that little boy stood up after that little pep talk. He had his chest puffed out and he walked over to the pool on his own. And I just watched him and I was like, "You were scared 2 seconds ago." But for me, it was such a beautiful lesson in how sometimes it's so important for us to expose ourselves to courage because you won't always have the confidence. And this is an idea that I've learned over time. You won't always have the confidence, but you can build the courage in that moment to be a little bit brave. So today's conversation is all about courage, how you can be courageous, how you can build the courage that it actually takes to jump into the next version of yourself, because you're not always going to feel like jumping into the swimming pool. Sometimes it feels like it's steep. Sometimes it actually makes you scared. So welcome to this episode of the Unlearners podcast.
The Unlearners. Learn, change, grow.
The Unlearn, I think when you take one courageous step at a time, it's going to make such a change. The Unlearn. Learn, change, grow. Okay, so let's have the courage conversation. Now, before, right at the beginning of this episode, I mentioned to you that this idea of courage comes very closely with the idea of confidence. Oftentimes when we develop, whether it's in our careers or as we build whatever we're building, maybe we're entrepreneurs or we're just individuals that are trying to build personal lives that are meaningful, or we're trying to grow as professionals, we often tell ourselves, "I need to be confident. I need to walk into a room. People must know what's going on. I must just be that girl. I must just be that guy." But here's the thing. You don't always have confidence because confidence comes from experience. And this was a valuable lesson that I learned from a mentor of mine, Rachel Rogers, who says you don't always have to be confident. And confidence comes from consistently trying something, doing it over and over again. But what if you haven't done something? What if this new version of yourself is exactly that? New. You've never done it. You don't know what's going to burn, what's going to work, what's not. And so all you can do in that moment is choose to be brave, choose to be courageous. Because once you start with courage, you then get the experience that leads to the confidence. So sometimes you won't always be confident, but you can at least start with that courage. Especially because it takes a lot of courage to unlearn. We're not always going to have all of the answers. And society often teaches us that you need to have all of the answers before you start doing anything. If you're about to start a business, at least make sure you have all of the partners, all of the right papers, you've registered, everything is done. Then you can put your business out there into the world. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And it's the individuals that don't wait for everything to be in line that are the first to get all of the fruits. It's the people that say, let me learn how to fly this plane on the way down. The people that learn how to fly on the way down, that are the ones that really get the learning done. I'll never forget, I used to do a lot of work, even while I was a primary school teacher, doing a lot of research into entrepreneurship. I hadn't fully become an entrepreneur at the time. I had a few entrepreneurial ventures that unfortunately didn't quite work out, but I learned so much from them. And I remember really feeling like I could do entrepreneurship. It was super easy. I could make it happen any day. And then, yes, I know I'm interrupting the episode, but it's just to let you know that if you're enjoying this, you are going to love our weekly newsletter. So every single week, I'm sending you tips, tools, insights to help you on your unlearning journey, but also I'm sending you updates about events, our various courses that are also going to support you as you learn, change, and grow. Okay, now, finally, let's get back to the episode. Started the business that you are now a part of as an unlearner, and I realized that it's only in practice that we get to gain the experience and start off with that courage. So whatever you're thinking about, today's episode is really about challenging yourself. Whether you want to go into a new space, whether you've realized that you need to start to speak to someone about your boundaries, whatever the unlearning is for you. Maybe it's imposter syndrome that you're trying to let go of. Maybe it's just having a conversation with someone that tells them, no, I'm not that person anymore. I don't do that thing anymore, and I hope it's okay with you. Today's conversation is about asking yourself, what are some of the things that you can do to be courageous? How can you step out? How can you be just a little bit more courageous in your unlearning journey? What's one subtle step that you can take? I believe in the power of the one thing. Because, I'm a keynoter and a facilitator for a living. So constantly there's so much information being shared. But the better we can just say, what's one thing that I can take away from this conversation, the better off we will be as we grow and as we learn. Because the brain can't process too many pieces of information at the same time, let alone focusing and being able to learn in that context. So the one thing I want you to challenge yourself to do after you've listened to this episode is just ask yourself, have I been courageous? Whatever my unlearning is, am I hiding away? Am I choosing to rather not do the work? Maybe it's fine. Let's give it another year. I'll start my business next year when I'm ready. I'll speak to my boss next year about my raise when I'm ready. How about asking yourself how you can be courageous now? What's one little step you can take in the coming week? Yes, the coming week, challenge yourself, that will help you to unlearn, but that will really kick off that journey of courage that turns into experience. And then when you have to do that thing the next time and the time after that and the time after that, you're going to be confident. Because where did it all start? It started with just a little bit of courage. You were courageous. And the individuals and even organizations that unlearn the best and transition successfully are the ones that start with courage and don't expect themselves to be confident right out the gate. So that's pretty much today's episode. That's the big nugget that I have for you, is to encourage you to start off with courage. Ask yourself what that looks like in your life right now, with where you're going, and maybe even watch this episode every quarter to say, okay, what's the next courageous move I can make for the next quarter that will really change things for me and really help me to step up where I am right now? And I think if you take one courageous step at a time, it's going to make such a difference to the person that you become at the end of this journey. You're not even going to believe who you've become because it's gone so well. Okay, my beautiful, beautiful unlearner, that's your beautiful nugget for today. I hope that this episode has been valuable for you, but also I hope that this episode has helped to open your eyes and help you to self-introspect and build that self-awareness along with self-management that will get you to the next version of yourself. Sending you lots and lots of hugs. I wish you an amazing unlearning journey, and I will see you on the next episode of the Unlearners podcast. It's been myself, Zanele Njapa, the unlearning lady, saying goodbye. We'll see you next time.
The Unlearners. Learn, change, grow.
The unlearn. I think if you take one courageous step at a time, it's going to be such the unlearn.
Learn, change, grow.